Making a video. Yeah. One inspired by this stuff instead of a response video for a change. Just thinking, early in the morning, raining, and there's a drip from the roof. No sound of the drip, it's making me think. Hopefully get rid of the snow. But it's whole, I thought it'd be gone by now. Anyway, and even that, just the fact that there's still snow on the ground just does something to your mood. So it's a mood video. And I guess in some respects the enlightenment, if you use that word lately, the added perspective you get, the different perspective you get from things being wrong or awkward or they sort of just, it's a little bell goes off, whatever, it's an event somehow that triggers perception of a vulnerability, lack of control. So generally speaking, it's that kind of video, just in the sense that we go through our lives like it would be there's today, and then there's tomorrow, and there's the day after tomorrow, and there's a year from now and 10 years from now, and there's things you can see into the future. Sort of this part of it sort of related to a Flyora video, which is sort of just talking about the miseries of life and whatnot. And clearly there's moments where you just feel very vulnerable, very like you don't have the tools for which these inevitable events, that you just don't have the you're just not going to have the wrench that's going to fit the bolt or the nut that's going to show up in the future, and that gives you this sense of dread or kind of a heavy apprehension regarding whether this is practical, like but then there's this necessity to live the life now with that hope thing, and not allowing mood, future dread, circumstances beyond control, those things to bludgeon you into some sort of feelings or perspective that just causes you unnecessary angst, that just in some sense can make you even less prepared, even less capable of dealing with the dread thing when and if it shows up. So there's a sort of, the difficulty comes up, sort of related to Piro talking about nuclear energy, in that mistakes are really expensive. Not paying attention is really expensive. Not being prepared is really expensive. Can be. And not necessarily just to you, and that's part of the problem. It's sort of like these the trap doors that you step in are kind of tricky in the way we live, and that I step in a trap door, and the door under me doesn't open, the door under somebody else does, and that's sort of the catch of the game. You could say just play the game aggressively and optimistically and recklessly, even if it's just you. You could say, there might be a strategy. Run fast enough, and maybe you can fly right over the trapdoors. But that's the trick of it. If they're opening under somebody else, there's a problem. Big problem. So that's sort of what I want to get to is, those moments when there's a drip, when there's something happening. See, this is the kind of thing that's better told in a story, like the telltale heart, or some other like related to anaconda body likes to live in the story. Um, just because when you just say something like, well, your better judgment is in those moments, those quiet moments, when you have time to reflect on the danger and recognize the safety, and how nice it is to be safe. How, yeah, that's the way to go. And it's hard to just say that and have people understand it. You kind of have to build into it to realize again, the trapdoor idea, the idea that a lot of this stuff in life is this optimism bias, this sense of wanting to live in the moment, gets you looking down close, and you just end up walking into the traps of life, the circumstances. There's no way out. If you go in, you're coming out. There's a lot of those kind of things in life where, even though it's a very attractive tunnel of love, you can cut your dick off. It can get you into some gnarly stuff, and you come out, without all your parts, damaged, harmed, beyond easy repair. It really is crappy out there still. Yeah. Yuck. And it's drippy. Anyway, see if the cat will go out before you go out. Come on, you love it out there. Guess he doesn't. Guess he doesn't. Well, I have nothing else for you. But the cat is another example. These animals who grow into you, you grow into them. And like I said, years ago I gave up on the whole pet idea just because I'd already been through the experience, the ecstasy and the agony, the tragedy, and already had resigned myself to, I'm not playing that game again. And then I just kind of got stuck in this role of caretaker for the homeless beasties, the refuse of the reckless. That's sort of the theme I want to kind of get to. But that's sort of the thing, right? People get into stuff, they can't deal with the stuff, and so all of a sudden the stuff is, let out the door in the middle of nowhere for, left to, the kindness of strangers. And, that's no way to run a railroad, so to speak. And it just creates a lot of messes. And, because people they aren't hungry. They don't have enough perspective to realize the beauty of safety, the beauty of prevention of the harm. Because all they're seeing is the emptiness, let's say, or the blandness of what safety costs. Because it does cost this lack of excitement, and it's not going to satisfy the want for more. It's a better way to say that, though, because it's again, it's back to this perspective thing, and what really motivates us, what motivations we have, rational versus compulsive, impulsive. We're just a collection of impulses, and when they have a regular routine, then you call them a compulsion. And these are really important words to understand what drives you and what's pushing, let's say. Driving, we see, it's very subtle language. So they don't really drive, they push. And, if you don't sit in the right seat, there's nobody steering, and all kinds of messes can be made. So there's so many ways to reflect on this. Like I said, I can see why some people are attracted. They have a impulsive bias towards or sense of comfort, pleasantness, at the idea of don't burden yourself with tomorrow's problems. Don't get lost in a negative, fearful perspective. To just maximize, keep your strength up, so to speak, to keep yourself in the game. And that as a narrow strategy, yeah, that works. But we see over the long term what that creates. And what that creates is the perpetuation of the danger game. The deserve will have nothing to do with it. Control will not have anything to do with it. There'll be a lot of rudeness to beauty, a lot of brutality that'll end up being the consequence of that lack of caution. It's, I guess you could say if there was something beautiful in the middle of a horrible neighborhood, or something, the greatest bar, and you wanted that good time, and you just became negligent of your responsibility, let's say, to be aware of the fact that it's dangerous getting there, and you can get lucky. It's like a rickety bridge, Yeah, you can get across, but the more you cross, the more likely, the higher your likelihood, that it's not going to work out. That the bridge is going to collapse and catastrophe will be the result. One-armed bandit in reverse or something. It's like there's you could think of a way of gambling where you're playing the one-armed bandit, the slot machine, and as you pull the handle, you get little treats, that just keep you fed, that you're hungry. So you play the game to get the little treats. But the bad news is there's a big payoff. You get the 3 cherries, and the little treat is poisonous or whatever. Doom. So instead of the prize, it's the little treats that are keeping you in the game, and the big disaster is the payoff, where the common metaphor is you pay the little prices, it's only a quarter, I guess it's $1 now, but anyway, it's only a nickel. It used to be a nickel, right? It's only a nickel. So you do a lot of little, it's only a nickels, even though that costs you a lot of money over time. And of course you do lose. But the prize is the big payoff. And that's what keeps you compromising. I could buy a bag of potato chips with that money. So you sacrifice little bits of yourself in the hope that you're going to win big in your investment. But like I said, I think more realistically, life is doing the other thing. It's giving you these little impulsive pushes. This you could smell it. It's like fresh baked bread. It's kind of like seducing you. And life does that to you. You get seduced by your need for love or affirmation. and the risk is, when you play those games, that you'll get your nuts crushed and your dick cut off. That just, you land badly. And again, superimpose on top of that this idea that you're not playing the game with your own stuff, with your own junk. You're playing the game with the future all the time. The other individuals. I mean, in some sense, they're no different. They're substantially you, so it's essentially substantially torturing yourself or imposing the risk on yourself. But it's not really you. And it's not you of any one perspective, I guess is another way to say it, right? I guess the point of this video is that there's times when you're very aware of the drip, of the, Poeskian shakiness of the ground you're resting on. And then there's other times when you're in the just doing it, and you're in the flow is the wrong word, but you're on stride. It's a good earth for running. But like I said, the more you run, inevitably, broken link, crash, burn. So, I don't know if I've really gotten to it in terms of just having understanding which is the better, the more sensible perspective is the one I think, that is aware of the fact that you're not going to win. That this game doesn't get played to win. A small percentage will win, and the vast majority will pay, and some will pay in a manner that's totally unacceptable. And I've tried to make some illustrations of that in arguments where if you just contemplate the worst case scenario and the best case scenario of human existence, it's very hard to say that the best case is doing anything really good enough to justify the worst case, justify a day of the worst case. And then once you start rolling evolution through your head and the whole natural process, where organisms are just ground into the game constantly. It's like the assembly line is so almost a straight line. It's like rodents. They live 3 years. They're just ground up in this almost straight line conveyor belt from womb to meat grinder. It's just the cycling speed is so quick. And it's just so obvious that it's just a machine eating. It's feeding. Yeah, I sort of wanted to get to that word. But anyway, I don't know if I need to drag it out. So just sort of a mood video. I wanted to title it, and I think I will, but something like, what was it? It feeds on ignorance. Yeah, it feeds on ignorance. So I sort of wanted to metaphor to the blob or something, this thing, and the only way the negative thing wins is when you're being too positive. It's that, you can almost get back to the electromagnetic kind of thing. You feed one force with the other force, and your optimism will create reason for pessimism. Your attempt to conquer your fear will create more for you to fear. That recklessness will open doors to horror, to circumstances that you won't be able to control, to catastrophic failures like Fukushima. And that's sort of the real yin-yang of life. And it's the yin is short and the yang is long. The price you'll pay is going to be higher than the profit you will glean. And that it all smells good, but it don't eat very well. Maybe that's a way to put it. And that's how the mechanism works. It gets you, it impels you up the conveyor belt. It tricks you into getting on the escalator with shiny, pretty future up. Yeah, it takes you up. But up, what goes up falls down. And the bounce down the rocks is going to be a lot worse. It's going to be bad. And it's not going to be anything close to worth what you really got out of it. The amount of bread you actually got to eat. You mostly lived on vapor and scent and wish and hope. Want tricked you. You weren't smart enough, reflective enough to always keep that drip in your head, to always have that sense of foreboding that this isn't safe, this isn't free, this isn't something to play with, very dangerous. Yeah. But you really have to know that anxiety. I guess that's the part I really wanted to get to too, because somebody else mentioned in the comments how they had an anxiety attack and blah blah blah. And you just if you've been there, and not even anxiety, but again, not some sort of attack like a panic or something, but just that angst, as the Anticontavad would say, where that that void slides into you, that cold front, and it puts a hard shiver through you. That's really hard to get back out of you. Once you've been there, once you've been to hell, you just don't want to go back. You really don't want to go back. But the game, the nature of the impulsive mechanism will grab you again, seduce you with the smell, the taste. Your imagination will create the hope, and you'll find yourself back on the belt. If you're not thoughtful enough to at least be cautious. These traps you can't. I've sort of found myself getting caught up in some emotional traps lately, and there are things that I just thought I knew better, but you can't help it. You are driven to it by a real hard need. And so some of these mistakes we can't help. And I guess the only thing we can do is advocate for help people to be careful we can at least say be careful, right? It's like when somebody goes out to drive somewhere, you say drive careful. It doesn't hurt to do that. Be thoughtful. Be conscious. Don't let a false sense of security, a forgetfulness of what it feels like to be impaled on the spikes of hell. Yeah. It doesn't hurt to keep people mindful of that. But again, then you're just being pessimistic, and you're just being dark, and you're being a party pooper. You know, but it's the only rational thing to do in light of our knowledge that that's how the game works. I guess that's the point, is that you really, the mistakes aren't inevitable, and you don't have to hear the drip all day long. You don't have to live with it all the time to just have some sense of caution. And when something serious comes up in terms of, this could have big implications on somebody else, that in those moments you've got to find reason to do it after you've tried your best to find reasons not to. You've got to, if you're going to do it, you have to do it over an honest diagramming of all the reasons why you shouldn't. And that's really important. Yeah, you got to take reckless out of the equation and make it a truly conscious decision, truly deliberate, careful, and the seduction has to be so meritorious that it was able to drive you over a complete and fair evaluation, even when you could hear the drip, even when it was dark and cold, even when you could feel the spike of hell. You were still able to see reason or hope or purpose in doing it. If you can feel the reason, you can feel the impulse when you're in that dark place, then you might have an excuse. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, kind of a down video. But just, yeah, I'm really reflective, and I'm sort of in a dark place. Not harshly dark. I just mean it's dark enough. It's a little bit dank. It's like a basement or something. It's not a full-out dungeon. It's just kind of a dirty basement. And so I'm vulnerable, weak, nervous, apprehensive, anxious. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough, I think. So yeah, it's probably better just to weave this into a story of some kind, as people like that, but I have a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, I have to go back to work soon. Anyway, so much shit's got to get done this summer, and I can't afford to hire it done. Yeah, I like to hire people to go to work for me. Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. So, till next time. And such, and so forth, and whatnot. The side of my hair is very fluffy, and the other side is... I still don't get this hair thing at all. I mean, why one side is weaker than the other side. Both sides have been weak, but it's better than it was. But I mean, it's just kind of funny that it's like 4 inches shorter, and one side is like a third less volume for some reason. I do feel like I'm listing. Yeah, so maybe it's just anyway, a disorder of some kind. Anything else? I don't believe so. I think that's enough. If you really think about it, life's a piece of shit when you really think about it. When you really look at it. I didn't say it very well. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. There you go. Yeah. Probably the greatest sentence ever written. But that's always got to be running in the back of your head. It's just this understanding that it's part of the machine's design to look like a fun house. Yeah, it's kind of like the fun house, right? It looks like a fun house, but it's really not a fun house if you think about it. Floors are moving, all this. Yeah, it's not really fun. At least I never thought so. Kind of smelly and rickety. Yeah, mostly. Yeah. So anyway, until next time.